If you take too many pieces, if you take too many strands like that and start to wind that on your fork or on your plate, you're going to end up with this huge ball, which is too big for some. I mean, for me, I can still go with that. Good day and a huge and beautiful welcome to Steve's Kitchen. I can't believe that I'm doing this recipe, a spaghetti bolognese, or a spag bog as we affectionately call it. This is one of the most simple meals, but we are doing meals for one. So why not make a spaghetti bolognese? And we're going to be making this dish from start to finish in 10 minutes. Why 10 minutes? Well, because generally dry spaghetti takes 8 to 9 minutes to cook, and that's the only real factor that is going to slow down the cooking process. Now, I've gone for spaghetti number 5. When I was a kid, they just used to be spaghetti, but now they're all numbered from sort of 1, which I think is the angel hair, they're very fine, up until 7, 8, 9. 5 is the one that I recommend for sort of standard spaghetti bolognese. Pretty much follow the instructions that's on the pack. I think a packet like this serves 6, so I'll work out the exact amount in a moment and share that with you. The next most important thing when you're making a bolognese or ragu of any sort is getting that flavour into it. And always try to use a reasonably decent quality meat to start with. So I've gone for an Australian grass-fed ground beef for this. But you know how everybody loves the first cut off the roast joint or any sort of roasted meats at all, because that's where all the caramelised flavour is. It is so important that you take your ground beef or ground turkey or ground pork, depending on what you're going to use for your bolognese, and caramelise it. Okay, let's start cooking this bolognese then. I've got a litre of water in a pan. Put that on a high heat for now. And we're going to add in a couple of teaspoons of salt. Don't worry about over salting this water, by the way. The pasta itself will not absorb all of that salt, but we want a nice saline water to cook the pasta in. We're going to leave that now until it comes up to a boil and get on and prepare our bolognese sauce. So I'll pop this one on a high heat. We really want a small amount of olive oil, just about maybe half a tablespoon in the center of the pan, not too much oil. So bring that frying pan or skillet up to heat. And I've got my beef mince here. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to push the oil around inside the pan. This is where we're going to get the flavor, where we want to actually brown this ground beef. Turn that heat down a little, it's a little high. Now hopefully we're going to get some beautiful oils out of the beef as well. So spread the beef out in the center of the pan. We want to leave that now for a minute or two for the bottom of that beef to get lovely and dark and brown and caramelized and flavored. Now at this point I might add a little pinch of salt, not much. Now you can see the oil starting to release from the ground beef now. Don't be tempted to pour these oils away. This is part of the flavor of the meat. Now I'm just looking underneath, I can see some lovely caramelized golden brown. So what I'm going to do now, just going to break the meat up and I'm just going to let it cook for another minute or so. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm just going to push the beef to the side and bring those oils back over here. Now I've got my onion. Let's pop the onion into the pan. And we want to just sweat these onions for a moment in that olive oil and beef fat. The beef will continue to cook on this side, so we'll still be developing the flavors. Now over here I've got a little bit of tomato paste. I've also got some diced tomatoes, just about, I would say about half a cup, and maybe a tablespoon and a half of tomato paste. I've also got some red chilies. I want a little bit of heat in my bolognese. So at this point I can add in my diced tomatoes. I've got a little bit of tomato paste just for a richness of flavour. There's no additives in these are just plain pure tomato paste. Also got my red hot chilies and a clove or a clove and a half of garlic. I'm just going to squeeze that into my dish. Now I'll just give that a little mix through. Turn the heat down a little bit. Now I'm going to add a little beef stock. just to thin the sauce down slightly. Now I'm going to take my herbs. Now I've got oregano, fresh thyme. Just move the leaves out the way. So I've got black pepper, thyme and oregano. The water's boiling nicely to the side. Now at the moment, that looks a little bit thin and quite plain. Some people will put a little bit of sugar in here. I'm kind of trying to avoid sugar at the moment, so I don't mind that the tomatoes are a little bit sour. Now, you might want to adjust whether you need a tiny little extra stock or water just to thin the sauce down, but this is going to thicken up over the next few moments. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover that now. Just move these items out of the way, and I'm going to swap these two over. So my water is boiling. I want to pop the bolognese onto a very low heat. Just going to continue to develop the flavors over here. We've got about 100 grams of spaghetti here. I'm just going to drop that into the water, and that will just wilt and bend into the water. You might want to take a fork and just finish it off. Just encourage it down into the hot water. And we are just going to let that simmer now. So on a medium heat, we want to cook this for 8 to 9 minutes, and it should be perfectly cooked. In the meantime, on this side, our delicious bolognese is developing in the pan. Okay, that's just over 8 minutes. And the pasta is beautifully cooked. I do it 8 minutes. I prefer my pasta to be a little al dente. Drain the water off of that pasta. It's probably a little more than I want actually, but take my spaghetti. I'm actually going to put it in a bowl. Normally I'd put this on a flat plate, but I thought we'd pop it in a bowl today. Right. Now this rich looking bolognese sauce, I don't know if I can catch that in the other camera, but you'll see it as it goes on. So we're going to place some of this deliciously rich bolognese sauce. Again, we've probably made enough here for 2 people, and I'm going to pop some grated parmesan just over the top. And I've got these little bits of fresh oregano just to garnish it. Kind of looks pretty. Wow. Oh, it smells so good. Now, with spaghetti, for me, it's a fork and spoon. I mean, you can just use a fork and twist it up, but I kind of like twisting it onto the spoon. Let me just get a quick photograph of this. Do you have to do this when you eat? I kind of like this little camera running. It gets me some nice little close-up shots. When I'm filming on my own, I just give myself one chance to make this, and I think it looks pretty delicious. Let's just come in there. I mean, what I would ordinarily do, if you take too many pieces, if you take too many strands like that and start to wind that on your fork or on your plate, you're going to end up with this huge ball, which is too big for some. I mean, for me, I can still go with that. All Lady in the Tramp style. But what you should really do is just get a few strands and just give it a little twist. And then you'll bring up something a little more manageable. Sorry about that last one, Mother. Wow, that is delicious. This is such an easy dish to make in such a short time. And it really is delicious. I mean, you can make this with fresh pasta as well, which would be probably my preference, but even with the dry pasta, it's a fantastically nourishing and delicious 10-minute dish. I say 10 minute, maybe a little over 10 to 12 minutes. Get that piece of herb in there as well. Mix it in. I hope you've enjoyed this very simple dish. I mean, spaghetti bolognese, it doesn't get simpler than that, but it's also really hearty, really delicious. And I hope you give it a try if you haven't already. I'm sure most of you have made spaghetti bolognese. Actually, let me know how your versions of spaghetti bolognese differ from my very simple spag bog. Do you know what would be Just perfect with this dish. Little cab sav with some spag bog. They go really well together. The fruity Cabernet Sauvignon, spaghetti bolognese, really ooh, that smells good. That's aired since yesterday. Oh yeah, oh now we're cooking on gas. And if you keep twisting the spaghetti over and over, eventually you're going to end up with just the bolognese at the bottom of the plate. Really pleased with that. My next meal is from a much further afield part of the world. Go on, have a guess. In the meantime, love to you all. Share the love, share this video with your friends and family. For me here, meals for one on my own in Australia. Be good, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.